Welcome to Shadowy Secrets, where we delve into the darkest corners of reality and uncover true stories that will chill you to your very core. Today's story is one of grief, loss, and the terrifying possibility of reincarnation, mixed with a hint of the paranormal. This is the true story of the haunting of the Pollock twins. Let me take you back to May 5th, 1957, a seemingly ordinary day in Hexham. The Pollock family lived a quiet, devout life. John and Florence Pollock, deeply religious, were blessed with two beautiful daughters, 11-year-old Joanna and 6-year-old Jacqueline. It was a Sunday, a peaceful morning, as the girls were excited about going to church. Little did they know that this would be their last. On that fateful day, while walking to church with a friend, Joanna and Jacqueline were struck and killed by a car in a horrific accident. Their lives were cut tragically short, but the sorrow and pain of their death were only the beginning. John and Florence were devastated, as any parents would be. John, however, believed that death wasn't the end. He spoke often about reincarnation, believing that perhaps his daughters would return to them in another life. Florence, though, wasn't as convinced. To her, they were gone, forever. Or so she thought. Fast forward a year. The Pollocks, struggling to find a way to move forward, received unexpected news. Florence was pregnant again, but this time she wasn't carrying one child. She was pregnant with twins. On October 4th, 1958, the twin girls, Gillian and Jennifer, were born, and from the very beginning, there was something odd about the twins. Jennifer had strange birthmarks that neither of her parents recognized. She had a thin, white line on her forehead, in the exact same spot where Jacqueline had a scar from a fall as a child. She also had a birthmark on her waist, mirroring one that Jacqueline had in the same place. These small, yet unnerving similarities were the first hints that something wasn't quite right. But it didn't end there. When the twins were around 2 years old, more bizarre occurrences started to unfold. Even though the Pollocks had moved to a new town after the accident, Gillian and Jennifer began asking for toys that had belonged to their deceased sisters, items the twins had never seen before. Gillian would ask for a doll that had belonged to Joanna, while Jennifer insisted she had owned a specific toy that had once been Jacqueline's. The twins didn't just claim the toys as theirs. They referred to them by name and described intricate details about them, details that had never been shared with them. John and Florence had kept the tragedy of Joanna and Jacqueline hidden from the twins, hoping to shield them from the pain of the past. But the twins began recalling events and experiences that only Joanna and Jacqueline could have known. One day, when they returned to their old hometown for a visit, the twins immediately recognized landmarks. They pointed out the school Joanna and Jacqueline had attended and even described their old house, despite never having been there before. As they grew older, the twins' memories of Joanna and Jacqueline's lives started to fade. But the questions they had raised haunted their parents. John became even more convinced that Joanna and Jacqueline had been reincarnated into Gillian and Jennifer. Florence, who had once been a skeptic, now found herself unsure, disturbed by the unexplained phenomena. But the most terrifying event came when the twins were around 4 years old. The family was walking down a street when a car drove past. Suddenly, Gillian and Jennifer became hysterical, clinging to each other and screaming. When John and Florence managed to calm them down, the girls explained their fear. They said the car was going to hit them, like it had before. They were reliving the accident that had killed Joanna and Jacqueline. Their parents were frozen in terror. The twins had never been told how their sisters had died, yet here they were, describing the car crash as if they had experienced it themselves. As the twins grew older, the haunting memories of their previous lives began to fade, but strange occurrences continued to follow them. Shadows would flicker in their bedroom at night, and the girls would wake up screaming about the man in the dark standing at the foot of their bed. Gillian, in particular, would have vivid nightmares, waking up in a cold sweat, claiming she could hear her dead sister's voices calling out to her. John, forever convinced of the supernatural connection, would often hear footsteps in the hallway when no one else was home. Doors would creak open without any wind, and a sense of dread filled their home as if the spirits of Joanna and Jacqueline were still present, unable to move on. The Pollock twins case has fascinated paranormal investigators, psychologists, and skeptics for decades. Some attribute the memories to cryptomnesia, the subconscious recollection of forgotten or suppressed memories that are mistakenly believed to be original thoughts. Others see it as the definitive proof of reincarnation. But what about the supernatural events that plagued the Pollock household? Were they manifestations of grief, or was there something far more sinister at work? To this day, no one can definitively explain how two young girls who never knew their deceased sisters could recall such specific details from their lives, nor can they explain the chilling encounters that haunted the family. Perhaps the Pollock twins' story is a glimpse into the unknown, a disturbing reminder that death may not be the end. Perhaps the souls of Joanna and Jacqueline were trapped, bound to the world of the living, and the twins served as their vessel. Or maybe it was all coincidence, a trick of the mind, a coping mechanism for unimaginable grief. Whatever the explanation, one thing is clear. The story of the Pollock twins leaves us with more questions than answers. And in the end, isn't that what makes a true horror story so terrifying? Not the things we know, but the things we cannot explain. Thank you for listening to this episode of Shadowy Secrets. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Do you believe in reincarnation? Have you ever experienced something that defied explanation? We'd love to hear your own chilling stories. Until next time, sleep well.